Hey guys, welcome back. And now the Alfarrari is running and driving. It is a real car. And now my main focus is moving straight ahead to getting it so that it can actually be registered for the road. So there's a whole bunch of things I need to do, and I can do the rest of the interior bits and things like that later. So let's get stuck into it. All right, guys, welcome back. And like you saw in the last episode, the Alfarrari moves under its own power. If you missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up. And please think about subscribing. It definitely helps the channel out. So just covering over a couple of things from the last episode. There were a bunch of people who were concerned about the alignment of the rear, and because it kept spinning and moving sideways. That's because my driveway is sloped sideways. So it's already on the side, and when it spins the wheels, it just wants to slide down the hill. So yeah, I'm not concerned about that. The diff is very tight. I did get the diff tightened up with extra clutch packs in there, so it is a very stiff LSD, but it still does have some give there. So that side is looking really good. And thank you very much to a bunch of you who gave me suggestions about a gearbox pump. There were lots of suggestions for this style of pump, which is what I've had for a long time. This one's actually broken, and I was never a huge fan. Yes, it works. You pump for ages. It takes forever to actually transfer anything. And then I got a whole heap of suggestions for using one of these. So this is just a cheap garden sprayer that you pressurize the system, and then it forces the fluid out. So I am going to be giving this a go next time. That sounds like a very good option, to be able to pressurize the system and just pump the fluid into the gearbox that way. I think it's going to be a lot less painful than these little types of ones or that other horrible one that I used. So all right, let's get stuck into it. All right, so the next thing I'm tackling is getting a speed signal to the Alfarrari. So I need a speed signal for the ECU, also for the speedo itself. The original car had a cable-driven unit, which obviously is not going to work now with the different gearbox and everything in the car, and there's no speed signal coming from the Subaru gearbox. So I have to make one up. So I've drawn up a couple of brackets and a couple of units. I'll show you once I cut them all out. I've cranked up the world-class plasma cutter on the plasma table, and we're going to get in now and see if we can cut out some bits. This makes life so much easier to be able to just draw something up and have an accurate part straight out of the gate. So let's go. All right, having that plasma table makes life so much easier. I can just draw something up in CAD and cut them out and have some accurate usable parts. Now, I was trying to work out how to make a speed sensor for the Alfa. And what I came up with was that I want to make a wheel that mounts onto the tail shaft so that I can mount a sensor, and seeing as it looks like I may have fixed the original Ferrari cam sensor, I'm going to reuse this Hall effect sensor that I got from Raceworks. I am going to use this as the speed sensor. So it needs to have something that it can pick up a signal from. Now on Harry, my 911, so I've got 6 cap head bolts that hold the drive shafts on, and I put a sensor on there to pick up those bolts, and they're nice and evenly spaced, and that is giving my speed signal, and it works perfectly on Harry. So what I thought is I'll mount something to the tail shaft, and I designed up in CAD this, which looks a little bit odd until you get a second one. I should be able to bolt these together onto the tail shaft and have 6 equal spaced lugs all the way around, and then I made a mount which hopefully, if I've got my measurements correct, this will bolt up to the edge of the diff, and I can bolt on my Raceworks sensor and pick up those lugs. So let's try and bolt those on right now. And those of you watching last week, I mentioned I was having trouble finding the M9 nuts to go with these weird M9 bolts for the tail shaft, and ended up getting on the lathe and tapping out some M8 nuts to suit the M9 bolts I already had. So that side is sorted. So now hopefully that all makes sense. You can see I've got my tabs coming off, which will go past the sensor and give me my speed signal. All right, so the next thing I'm going to tackle is the clearance on the end of the tail shaft going into the gearbox. It makes an awful noise when it's spinning around and it rubs on the edge of that. So I'm just going to trim this sort of just a dust cover. Going to trim that back a little bit. Like I mentioned last week, there's still plenty of movement in and out on the centre CV joint on the tail shaft. So that's it's not actually an issue that it's in that far. That's not where the slip is. The slip is actually in the CV joint in the middle. So got plenty of room there. So I'm just going to do a couple of little trims and try and sort of peel it all back and do it without pulling the whole thing out again, because I don't want oil to pour all the way back out of the back of the gearbox. All right, so if you watched last week, you will have seen that I couldn't get out of my driveway. One of the things is that I've got a crappy gravel driveway, and it's actually got the gate at the top. There's a concrete strip, so it sort of is a lump and your car won't get over it. But one of the reasons for that is that the car is far too low. As you can see here, yeah, that's sitting far lower than it needs to. I mean, I do like a low car, but not that low. I think you can probably go up almost an inch either end. So to get it ready for the car show, I didn't have the springs in time, so I cut the old springs. I have the correct springs, so we're gonna pull the front apart, replace the springs, and raise the rear up. With the Titan coilovers, it makes it nice and easy to just be able to adjust it and get it to just the right ride height. So we're gonna do that now, and that'll be another job ticked off the list. So before I started, I took a whole bunch of measurements to get the base ride height and then worked out where I wanted to go from there, so I have some idea of how I'm changing things. So those who haven't seen this before, the Alfa springs are under a whole lot of tension, so you have to undo two bolts that are diagonally opposed to each other, then put in some longer ones, so then you can then undo them gradually and take the tension off the spring a little bit at a time. It takes a while, but it's the only safe way to do it. Then there's a whole lot of trial and error pulling the springs in and out to get the adjustment correct. And once the front was done, the back was a whole lot easier, just adjusting the coilover perch at the top. Very quick and simple adjustment, raise it 10mm and you get 10mm at the wheel. All right, so there was a bunch of playing around. There's a couple of hours of messing around with the front coils particularly are a real pain to be able to adjust, because you have to lower down the spring perch gradually with extra long bolts and then change things around. But I am much happier with the ride height now. I've only raised it by around 10mm front and rear, but it actually looks so much better now. I think that's sitting at a much better level. It was just too low before. We'll see how it goes. I could even raise it up just a little bit more maybe, but for this stage, I think that's looking good. So we can move on to something else. All right, and the next thing I'm going to tackle, which I know has been bothering a bunch of you, it's really been bothering me, is this exhaust tip not sitting where it's supposed to. So this one is sitting just about perfect. I'm quite happy with that. There's always going to be a slight little movement. That is not cool. That is not cool. That's not what I designed, and we're going to fix that up now. So I'm going to have to cut it and re-weld it. So let's see how we go. I'm going to see if I can sort of cut it in place, bend it, tack it, and then hopefully weld it off the car and it'll be in the right spot. Guaranteed when I weld it off the car, it's going to warp and it's not going to, yeah. looks so much better. So basically all I did is I looked at the direction I needed it to go and cut a wedge out of the exhaust in that direction. The first time I did it, it didn't get enough clearance. So I dropped it down and ground through it and sort of cut another grinder blade width out and then held it up again, zapped it again, and it's sitting exactly where I want it. So now I need to pull it off, get it on the bench, and I'll finish welding it with the TIG. I'll get rid of all that MIG, even though I did use stainless wire in the MIG. Yeah, I'm still gonna finish it up with the TIG. Let's do it. That is absolutely spot on. That is exactly what I wanted. They're exactly the same on either side. They're almost slightly offset to the outside, but it's exactly the same amount on either side. It's just perfectly level. I'm very happy with that. That's another job ticked off the list. All right, so the next thing that I need to tackle to get this car ready for the road and for its final use is I need to do something about this bonnet window touching the plenum. So if you've watched previously, I will have covered that I spent ages building this bonnet window and it cleared perfectly, and then I put the Perspex in it, and now it just touches. The bonnet does close and close properly, but it's just touching on the very tips of the plenum, just touches. So it's probably not easy to see, but there's clearance everywhere except for just there, just on that edge there and there. But everywhere else, the bonnet fits perfectly. It sits down, it's beautiful. It's just that little tiny bit of contact. So there were heaps of suggestions of how I can fix this issue, and some of them were like, can't you just move the engine down a little bit? And any of you who saw the exhaust modification I did a couple of weeks ago, you will see that that is not an option. There is no room anywhere around the engine. This engine is 10 mil, if that, all the way around. Now it does have very tight engine mounts, has polyurethane leaf spring bushings as its engine mount, so it doesn't move very much. It does transmit a bit of vibration through the car when the engine's running. That's just how it is, because this engine can't move much. So what I'm looking at is the Perspex I actually used is very thick. It's 6mm Perspex, and that 6mm is what is really causing me the issue. So if I can do something about that, I may actually be able to avoid doing much of anything at all and just change that window, and we might have a little bit of clearance. So I'm going to cut this window out now, and we'll have a further look into how much clearance we have and what we can do about it. So I still have a lot of the Sikaflex to clean up, but you can actually see that there is quite a bit of clearance there on either side. Now, on the scheme of normal engine movement, not a lot, but on this engine's ability to move everywhere, that's enough. So how do we make the bonnet window still work and, yeah, still give me some clearance? I have a plan. I love this old Guillotine. It really makes short work of getting a rough shape in order, and then it's just a matter of going around with the angle grinder and a flat disc to tidy up the corners, and we're good. Then I sat it inside and worked out what my inner edge of the lip was, and then marked a 15mm extra flange all the way around. So to get really neat inner corners, I used the punch tool I've got. So I drilled out the 4 corners and then got the punch out, and using the hydraulic punch has got a range of different size holes, and it makes life so much easier and you get a really neat finish. Then just freehand with the angle grinder to get a nice neat perimeter, which is the bit that I'm looking for. All right, so hopefully this is starting to make a little bit more sense what I'm trying to do. And you can see here I've cut out a frame. Now this is out of 0.9 mil mild steel. Same stuff that most of the body panels on the car are made out of. And my plan is that this is so much thinner than the Lexan that I was using before, which was 6 mil. This is going to give me an extra 5 mil, which is enough, as much as I'm going to get without doing heavy modifications. So what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to glue this with the same automotive sealant that I used on the previous Lexan, but this has got a 15mm lip all the way around the outside, and that is going to give me an edge. Then I can then sit a piece of 3mm Lexan over the top. So basically it's giving me 5mm more inside, and it's also then going to be flush mounting the Lexan with the top of the bonnet. So I know some people didn't like that. I wasn't really too concerned. They were worried that water was going to pool. There'd be a tiny little bit on the edge. I really wasn't concerned, but it will look better that way. I just didn't want to have this black lip all the way around, which is what I'm going to have now. But that is how I think I'm going to solve my problem. So let's prepare this and start painting it and getting it ready to glue into the car. All right, so I have it all connected on there now. It's clamped on all the way around, and I'm going to leave it overnight at least to see how it sets up, and then we'll check the clearance and see if it's going to work. All right, so I've left this now overnight, and now I'm going to pull all the clamps off and see if we've got that clearance that I was desperately looking for. It's not a lot, but they're no longer touching. It's probably hard to see there, but there's definite air gaps all the way through, so it's only about 5mm or so either side. Actually, this side's got a bit more, and because of the way the engine rotates, particularly when you drop the clutch and stuff, that's the direction it's going to twist. So at least I've got the clearance there, and yeah, that's enough for this engine on this job. That is much better. Another big shout out to Peter, who's a legend and one of the patrons, and he loves giving me little offcuts of polycarbonate which come in super handy for jobs like this. Thanks again, Peter. Now I'm just trimming around the edge and using the polycarbonate's plastic covering as a mask so I can paint a nice black trim all the way around the edge. Alright, so I've gone through now, and as you saw, I painted the edge of the polycarbonate cover, mostly because I didn't want you to be able to see the Sikaflex edge all the way around, because it never sticks 100% all the way around. So you get this sort of weird look through there, and I don't want to try and put paint on the top because it'll peel off. So hopefully that will give a nice looking border all the way around the inner edge. And then once this is set up, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put the Sikaflex in the top edge all the way around. And what that will hopefully do is it will basically lock it in nicely, and I can get a nice, neat sort of, wet finger edge all the way around so that it's held in nicely. You'll see it when it's done. Let's now move back inside the car because there's something I need to do for the second time. All right, so one of the things I did want to pay attention to when I was driving the car that I found very difficult was this is the electric water pump and electric fan controller. Now, I had designed it to sort of sit up underneath the dash, hidden up out of the way, so you can stick your hand underneath and sort of adjust it, but besides that, it would sit out of the way. What I'm thinking now is I actually want to mount it so that I can see it if I open the glove box, so I can sit in the back behind the glove box, and that way when I want to see it, it's got the water temperature, I can see whether it's running properly and all the things that are happening. So that is what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to change the mount and just make a simple mount to mount it up inside the glove box. So if I'm driving and I want to have a look, I can just drop it down. There will be a water temperature gauge on the dash and a warning light, but just the added peace of mind for the times that I'm going to use it on the dyno, whatever, it can be just pop it open, have a check, make sure everything's all good. All right, and that is perfect. So if I pop that down and I turn the ignition on, it'll give me the coolant temperature and also the battery voltage, so I know the alternator's working and that sort of thing. So that is exactly what I was looking for. All right, so the controller is mounted in the glove box. I'm quite happy with that. I am going to build some sort of a glove box later to actually house things, and I will still have that screen visible in there, but there is going to be a lot of air conditioning ducts and things like that, so it just depends on what I can actually fit, and I want to get all them in first, and that can come much further down the track. But we are really getting close. I am very happy with all the things we got done today on the Alfa. I have also booked it in for the dyno in less than 2 weeks. So I have to make sure I've got all those coolant issues fixed up and a bunch of other things. So hopefully you'll be around for that. But I think it's definitely time for fun facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, okay, along for the road variants. Ferrari also produced a number of race variants of the 458 to great success. The 458 Challenge replaced the Ferrari 430 Challenge for the One Make series in 2011. It was based on the road car, but with polycarbonate replacing all of the windows and other carbon fibre panels, thereby reducing the weight. The interior is Spartan with 2 race seats and a full roll cage. For the 2014 season, the 458 Challenge Evo was produced, mainly improving the aero of the car. The new Italia 458 GT was built to comply with the new FIA GTE regulations and was used in the GTC, GTE and GT2 categories. The GT under new restrictor regulations only made 460 horsepower and had a red line of 6,250 RPM. Despite these limitations, it was extremely successful, winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans 2012 and 2014 amongst many other competitions. The 458 Italia GT3 upped the power to 550 horsepower and had a red line of 9,000 RPM. The GT3 won the 24 Hours Spa an amazing 6 times, but most importantly won our Bathurst 12 Hours in 2014.
All right, well, that was a bunch of bits and pieces sorted out on the Alfarrari this week, and I am getting close to the deadline. I've got it, the dyno now booked in for less than 2 weeks' time. So I have to get everything ready, running properly so that it's not going to spurt fluid everywhere on the dyno, and just have it ready to roll. So it's getting very close to the pointy end.
Yes, very exciting times await us. Yes. Jeff just bought his new thing today.
Oh yes, we have new projects just out there, waiting in the wings.
Yes,
So,
but you're going to require some training for me.
yes.
Driving training.
Yeah.
What am I getting? No, I'm not
talk
saying
about this
that.
later.
No.
You'll have to watch later, but
Like, subscribe, let Jeff know what you think of the videos, Patreon if you want to support him, and we'll see you very soon.
all right, see you guys.
Ferrari also produced a number of race variants of the 458 to great success. Sorry, try it again. Ferrari F430 Challenge. It's one make series in 2011. It was based on the road car, but with polycarbonate fibre replacing all of the windows and...
What? Polycarbonate fibre? What?
I don't know what polycarbonate is. I have no idea.
Polycarbonate.
Polycarbonate, not fibre. Oh no. Oh, what is this sentence? Italia GT was used to comply with the new GTC ADC regulations and was used with the ADC, EFG and GT2 regulation cars. No.
Yes, it's
Can't.
easy.
It's not. Too much. And had a red line of 4,260 revs per minute.
6,250. 4,260. Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Yes. You made it sound weird, but yes.
Felt weird to say.